Turn on your mic. Okay, we're very close to 10 minutes after 1, so let's get started here. Welcome to the regular board meeting of CCWD, Wednesday, January 10th. And I would like to have you rise and do the pledge along with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Rebecca, would you please call the roll?
Director Cicada.
Here.
Director Davidson.
Here.
Director Ratterman.
Here.
President Thomas.
Can you say that again?
President Thomas.
I'm here.
And Director Underhill is absent but participating as a member of the public.
All right, going on to public comment at this time. As you know, the members of the public may address the board on any non-agendized item, and the public is encouraged to work through staff to place items on the agenda for board consideration. No action can be taken on matters not listed on the agenda, and comments are limited to 3 minutes. So do we have any public comment today? Yes, Francisco, come forward.
Good afternoon, President Thomas.
Good afternoon.
My public comment has to do with a project that I'm sure you've all maybe are getting tired of hearing about, but I have submitted a change management strategy to Rebecca to share with you. It consists of phased implementation of a dashboard, and I've also submitted an overall CCWD performance dashboard that along the left-hand margin consists of all the measures that I talked about at the external relations meeting, and across in columns are mock results over the next 5 months. Mock results based on the best information that I've been able to glean from attending meetings at the external relations meeting, at a finance meeting, at these board meetings. And it takes the form very basically of a report card. So if you look at the far right column, it tells you what your final grade would be if this were 5 months worth of results. On the second page, it gives us the opportunity to show how those particular measurements are distributed. As you can see, we're not doing real good. We're not doing real good. Ratepayer perspective based on what I can glean from the data that's presented. Now, this proposes that we get together and figure out how to really get this right. So I'm proposing a monthly report out of how much progress did we make? What did we do? What are we getting? This also recommends that we start with a pilot project, you know, eat an elephant a bite at a time. Okay, so let's pick some. I'm recommending perhaps Mr. Kelly G, who has the easiest access for statistics generation in terms of social media awareness, social media use, social media penetration, etc. I also would recommend that we consider starting a customer satisfaction survey of some sort, so we get regular monthly reads of what you think our customers are thinking about this operation. We don't have anything right now, and we can use the recall effort as an indicator of just how happy some folks are. But I don't know if that's a small group or 80% or 90%. And I think we would want to know. So I would encourage you to review the previously submitted document that talks about what these measures are intended to do, review this document, and start thinking about what kind of targets do you want for each one of these? Because this column says, what percent of that target did you achieve? So if you target a 95% of overall satisfaction of customers with the level of service, and you only achieve a 90%, then you would take 90 over 95 and end up with percent target achieved. Ideally, you want 100% of your targets achieved, but that's unrealistic in some instances, except for maybe the regulatory ones. You don't want to get too much below 100% compliance. There are going to be issues, but you don't want to get to. At any rate, I would encourage you some support We're going to request data on a formal basis if we can't get it any other way. And I intend to report this out to the group once we agree on what makes sense to help the district get better. Because the bottom line at the bottom is, you know, what are some things to kind of dull the recall effort? One is to demonstrate the commitment that the board has to continuous improvement and transparency, which right now it's opaque. And I've been attending meetings for like well over 6 months, and I can't really see how this organization is managed from a database continuous improvement perspective. I just can't see it because none of the meetings talk about trends. None of the meetings talk about here, we're here, and we're going to go there. I've even not yet seen any specific goals on where you want to be.
Okay,
And,
Francisco, we're bumping up against the 3 minutes, and I want you to know that I hear you. And unfortunately, when each time you come here and make these recommendations, we have to say, yeah, we're going to look into it. I'm going to do that again, but I will give you a commitment that we can do like a small study group or something, bring in the people that you're asking for this information to be provided by, and we'll work this out. And it's a situation where I predict that you're not going to be completely satisfied, but I will make the very best effort that I can to acknowledge your objective. And I want the same thing. I would like to see, and it's been my objective to have CCWD be the trusted leader in this industry in our region. And yeah, we could do a little better on communication, but I have an observation and I'll share with you later in the meeting. But
I want to ask him a question, and then this information you put together, it's based on the group that was created based from the rate increase. All these members of the public, you guys get together regularly and kind of worked on this. I know you did it personally, but this information was kind of as a group effort from the public trying to communicate with us. And if we continue to not do anything about it, I think we're in big trouble. And I'd like to see that we have this discussion, because we can't now, on the agenda next meeting. And I'll request that formally.
next meeting, I think is well, and I know the date, but this sounds like to me that it could be a very lengthy discussion. We've got the mid-year budget that we're scheduled to.
Can I throw in a couple, 2 cents here? We're already way into an agenda item that
Yeah.
isn't on our agenda.
Right.
And even to just have this discussion, we should agendize it to have a discussion to give some sort of an answer.
And that's
and
why
where
I
we're
want
gonna-
it on the agenda, because this was started in October, and I go on and listen to these meetings, and it's like, we'll get back to you. We'll get back to you. We're not doing anything, you guys, and this is the public trying to talk to us. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say.
Well, but there's a spot down there. Yeah.
I know.
7, yeah, okay.
Reprimanded.
And thank you.
I requested it at the external relations meeting for a standing agenda item at the external relations meeting and the regular board meeting. It didn't make it to the regular board meeting this instance, so I'm making an issue of it. I'd like it at the next board meeting if possible, please.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Any other public comment for this morning, online or otherwise?
Well, I would certainly like to welcome the new president, Russ Thomas, and I wish you all the best in 2024.
And who are you?
Hi, Bertha. Happy
I'm
New
in
Year.
snow country. It's been snowing since 9 o'clock this morning.
Okay,
And
Bertha,
we're
I'm sorry.
happy to hear that, or happy to see that.
Sorry you couldn't make it, and thank you for those kind words. Appreciate it very much. Okay, let's move on to the, no more raised hands. Okay, to the consent agenda. We have item 3A, approval of the minutes of the October 25th, November 15th, December 1st, and December 13th. We also have 3B, review board directors' monthly timesheets, and 3C, ratify claim summary number 622, secretarial fund for
Move
the.
for acceptance.
You didn't let me finish.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second
I'll
for
second.
approval.
I'll second.
No, you can't. You can't.
Oh, I
Bertha.
can't?
Participate.
Oh, okay.
Okay, a motion by Director Davidson, second by Director Radam, or vice versa.
Close enough.
Close enough?
Close enough.
Okay. What? Can you pull the board?
Director Cicada,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
President Thomas.
I vote yes on this as well. Okay, going on to new business. We have a momentous occasion here. We have a longstanding member of our team, Charles Palmer, who is retiring after 20 years with the district. And I think that we have a resolution in hand someplace. Yeah, yeah. Can you let me see it? This is the first time that there's been a 10-page resolution. Come on up. Okay, it says on the first page. A resolution of the Board of Directors of the Calaveras County Water District recognizing Charles Palmer. Whereas Charles Palmer has faithfully served the ratepayers of Calaveras County Water District for 20 years, and whereas he became a CCWD employee on January the 1st, 2004. That was almost last century. So, hired as an engineer and continued to work as an engineer in various capacities his entire career with CCWD, including the district engineer for nearly 9 years. And whereas during Charles's employment with the district, he worked on numerous occasions and capital improvement projects with great attention to detail. And whereas Charles's devotion to improving the quality of life for Calaveras County residents is represented in projects like Ebbets Pass Reach 3A, Reach 1, and the West Point water system improvements. And whereas Charles was instrumental in securing grant funds for critical district projects, including the Ebbets Pass Redwood Tank Replacement Project, West Point Wilseyville Water Treatment Plants Consolidation Project, West Point Clearwell Replacement Project, West Point Distribution System Replacement Project. Whew, it's going to take a lot more pages here. Vallecito Water Treatment Plant, MBR Implementation Project, and Jenny Lynn Water Treatment Plant Pretreatment Project. And whereas Charles became a respected mentor to less experienced engineers and engineering staff. And whereas Charles is always willing to lend a helping hand in solving complicated problems and coming up with solutions that are outside the box, which included finding revolutionary new products. I have to hear more about that. And whereas optimists say the tank is half full, pessimists say the tank is half empty, Charles says, build a tank twice as big.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a good one. Whereas Charles is known for his dad jokes and his love of the beach, with numerous vacations to the Santa Barbara area, Fiji, and Hawaii. Oh, the beach, not the breach. The beach with numerous vacations. Yeah, that would be a bad thing if it was a breach. Now, therefore, it be resolved. Is there a drum roll? Where's the drum? The Board of Directors of Calaveras County Water District and co-workers hereby wish Charles all the best into retirement as he and his family move to Oregon. What?
In California, right?
To celebrate this significant milestone. Okay. This says it was passed and adopted, but
I'll move for acceptance.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's poll the board on that.
Public comment.
I know. Public, well,
So
We should probably finish
You have
the
to-
presentation first.
okay, public comment. Let's do that.
I would just like to say congratulations, Charles.
It's been a pleasure working with you, and we've been through a lot of adventures together, and I think we've come out all on the positive side, and it's been a great time, and best of luck in the future. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I just want to add tremendous gratitude to Charles for all that he's done for the district. I've learned a lot from him in my 5 years here. And I think, not to steal anybody else's thunder, but I think Director Davidson put it really well in engineering committee yesterday that, you know, Charles leaves a really positive impact on Calaveras County. And I think, you know, that's what we all hope for in our careers here. So, you know, congratulations, Charles. Thank you. And enjoy retirement, starting next week on the beach in Mexico.
And for myself, having worked in various public agencies and private consulting firms, Charles has been one of the best engineers I've ever interacted with. I'm sorry, it was only 7 months, but you know, best of luck to you. And yeah, it's been a pleasure. So thank you so much.
Can I add? Oh,
Is she allowed to even be talking?
Well,
I never get to.
if I may add that I've
Go ahead, Juan.
only been with the district for a little over 2 months, and in this little 2 months, being a recent graduate from school, I offer him he should offer his time for universities and do some lectures, because he has spent numerous hours with me and he explains things so well, and it's been a pleasure working with you, Charles. I wish you were staying another 10 years, but.
Oh, that was nice.
Awesome.
No, it's been great. You know, Charles is a supervisor, and then also, you know, here recently as a coworker, and just all the stuff that I've learned has just been awesome. You know, he's the most knowledgeable person that I've ever met, I think, for the most part ever. And it just, you know, just been the biggest pleasure, just, you know, sharing time together and talking about our families and our vacations and stuff. It's just been awesome. Appreciate that.
As a customer that has passed, I'd like to thank Charles for all those enormous projects that you did up in that area. They're just phenomenal. I mean, that the pass is you know, the whole organization is a better place, you know, with you here. And it was a pleasure working on those projects with you. And like I said, those were phenomenally huge projects. Reach 3, Reach 1, all the tanks, Techite. So
Kind of funny how all those projects up in his neighborhood got done. Huh?
it's really quite amazing to think about how many projects
You're
were
an
done.
engineer from Valley Springs.
So, thank you very much.
Did we conclude that Bertha can
Can-
comment?
can I add a comment?
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead, Bertha. Go ahead, Bertha.
Okay. No. Charles has been with Jeff and I forever, it seems. And so we thoroughly enjoyed and seen his progress, not only as far as CCWD is concerned, but getting married and having children and now a move. And I think that's great, Charles. Your life is complete, and I'm so happy to have worked with you, and good luck to you.
Appreciate that, Bertha. Thank you.
Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, the entire time I've been working here, Charles, you've presented in front of us, I don't know how many times, and the list of projects that's in the resolution that is given to you, or because of you, that you've been involved in. You are also well known in this industry. Everyone that I know of, talk about an engineer at CCWD, it's, oh, must be Charles, and it usually is. Congratulations for all your hard work here, and congratulations on your retirement, and I hope you well into the future.
Great.
Hope you're not moving to Portland now.
Southport, same,
Okay, good.
so close. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Comment?
Well, I just, you know, echo what I said yesterday. You definitely left your mark on projects in this county that will last, you know, hopefully a long, long time. You know, not a lot of people can, you know, drive up a highway and have a little piece of all your little projects all along the way. And I think that's really impressive. And it's got to be a great feeling to leave a place knowing you left it a lot better than it was in the beginning.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Jeff.
Charles, thank you for everything that you've done with CCWD. And when I spoke to you a little bit ago, I told you this is going to be short, and I just wish you and your family the best. You
Thank you.
deserve it. So enjoy.
Thank you, Senator.
So when exactly is your last day?
So, well.
March.
Probably technically, I mean,
Friday is like my last day I'll be here in the office.
Well, the reason I'm asking
Monday is
that,
my last day. Yeah.
the reason I'm asking that is that you will get a signed contract for all that dirt we need for the pond, the dam raise.
Didn't forget that.
We have to get that dirt under contract, otherwise we're in bad shape. But I want to express my appreciation for your effort here too, Charles. It's been great working for you here, and I remember when I first started attending the CCWD board meetings when you were over in the annex down around the corner from the CCWD building, and we were all a lot younger then. But anyway, you were an impressive person in those meetings a long time ago. And yesterday you said that Jeff has been on the engineering committee for your entire tenure here.
But
So-
as far as I can
I don't think there's been a gap.
So this could be a joint resolution.
Well, no, you're just trying to push me out. I get the hint.
No, there's other people wanting to do that, but not me. Okay,
Can I just make a brief comment?
no. Go ahead, please.
So yeah, I just wanted to say it's been a pleasure working here at CCW for most of my career. And, you know, everyone, the employees, past employees and current, you know, staff, board members, living in Calaveras County has been great. And, you know, being part of this community, I've enjoyed it all the time. You know, I'll always look back at this period of my life with fond memories and with great pride in what we were able to accomplish here. And I know there's a list of projects that, you know, you've said, oh, Charles accomplished these, but it's because we're a team here, you know, and everybody contributes and pulls together. And that's one of the best things about CCWD. So, yeah, I also, as Bertha mentioned, I have a wife and kids, and I know that at CCW. I met my wife while I was working here. She was she's a civil engineer too. She's a consultant that came to work for CCW. I didn't, and like every marriage, you don't intend, you don't know how exactly you're going to meet your spouse, but that's the way it worked out. And lastly, and this is a little bit difficult for me, just my father had passed away just before Christmas. And I just wanted to, his name was Charles Palmer Sr. I'm junior. And so I just wanted to say, you know, I owe a lot to my career as a civil engineer and my at CCWD to him. You know, he was a very humble kind of guy. And I worked for PG&E for 30 years. He's in the Navy, you know, and you know, he never went to college, but he did that for my daughter, my sister and I. So I just want to, you know, acknowledge him in this moment.
That's a great story. Thank you.
Yeah. And
sorry
Charles,
for your loss,
I'm glad you mentioned that word humble, because that's not one that I think any of us use, but it certainly applies to you. Absolutely.
Yeah, it
I
does.
think just the way you've always conducted yourself, your professionalism and your focus on work and projects and not, you know, not anything else, just what we need to do as a team to get work done is, you know, you've certainly lived up to that. Absolutely.
So, yeah, so I just wish everybody well moving forward. And that's pretty much all I have to say here.
All right. Thank
Charles,
you.
thank you.
Okay, yeah, we need to resolve this with a vote, so.
Oh, yeah.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
Director
Absolutely.
Davidson,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
President Thomas.
With reservation, but yes.
This a photo op?
I think so, yeah, let's do this. We should
Love
do
us
it,
or
we should
just
do it in
you?
front of the screen so Bertha can smile.
Oh, yeah, and you got good idea. We'll just kind of move in and sit.
Otherwise, Charles would tower over all of them. We weren't.
Yes. Get in the middle, Charles.
I can tower over you guys.
Let me know where.
Just not in front of us.
Aren't you gonna hand this to?
Or Scott, stand on a chair.
No, you're good. You,
Maybe you
we'll
should.
put our heads in between yours.
Charles. Here.
Oh, the resolution.
Yeah. Don't, whatever you do, don't break that frame. It'll be hard to replace.
Should stand.
Congratulations.
You should stand on your chair.
Oh,
You want a stool for next time?
Yeah.
Michael, we need a little footstool for Russ next time.
Oh, rough.
she's out of control.
Watch out.
There at all.
It's one of those days.
He just call his birthday.
Okay.
Oh, we're doing Birch.
Everybody's just told his birthday. Okay, going back to new business, we have item 4B. This is discussion and action regarding the assignments to district committees of the board and representatives for joint power authorities. And this is kind of one of my first responsibilities and assignments.
Yeah.
And I do want to acknowledge that there is language in our policy manual that says that all of these assignments can be challenged at a future meeting if if a board member wants to object, but it has to be done by vote. Okay, so engineering committee, I thought that it was important for Jeff and I to continue our participation in that. I think
Don't want to break the streak.
no one, yeah, that's right. It's, I really enjoy the opportunity to be involved in reviewing some of these projects, and Jeff and I are probably, construction wise, the best suited for that. Finance committee, I would like for Cindy to take over the leadership of that committee. Bertha Underhill has agreed that she will continue on that committee and I will be the alternate. Legal affairs, because Jeff and Scott do such a great job on that committee, I don't want to interrupt that streak of successes either. External Relations Committee, I want to take over the chairmanship of that along with Cindy, and Bertha will be the alternate on that committee. Aqua JPIA, I think Scott Retterman is the obvious person since he kind of horned his way into the board of JIPA. Good job, by the way, Scott. Public Finance Authority, we're all responsible for that. Calaveras, Amador, McCollum River Authority, Ratterman and Cicada will be representing us on that. Calaveras Public Power Agency, Michael Minkler with the alternate of Damon Wyckoff. And the Eastern San Joaquin Groundwater Authority, we have to get kind of more or renew our involvement in that effort, and I will continue in representing us on that. Tuolumne Stanislaus Integrated Regional Water Management Joint Power Authority, also known as TSTAN JPA. Bertha Underhill has agreed to take on the responsibility for that. And the Upper McCollum River Watershed Authority, UMRA, Jeff Davidson will continue doing his representing us there, along with Ratterman being the alternate. Other regional organizations of note, the Parks and Recreation Commission. I hope that, well, I'm intending to remain to be the CCWD representative on that, and the Mountain Counties Water Resources Association, all board members. And I think that you're the president of that now, aren't you, Scott?
Say it again?
The Mountain Counties group?
Yeah, I'm president of that board, yes.
Yeah. Okay. When do you have time to come to our meetings?
I squeeze it in.
Oh, okay, good. McCollum River Association, all board members, and then Tuolumne Stanislaus Integrated Regional Water Management JPA Watershed Advisory, the WAC Committee. I'm hoping that Kelly Gurkensmeyer can be our representative there, and the alternate will be Juan Maya. And then the Eastern San Joaquin Groundwater Authority Technical Advisory Committee, Mark Rincon Ibera. Is it Ibera? Ibera. Bara. Okay, and alternate will be Sam Singh.
I have just a little, looking where Kelly is for the T-stand.
Mhm.
It says the T-stand Regional Water Management JPA. I don't think we need JPA there because we just have the Watershed Advisory Group, which is Kelly and stuff. And the JPA where Bertha is, that all looks correct and that has to be a board member. But does JPA need to be in that? Does that make it sound a little weird, like it's a JPA and a watershed? Because it's not a JPA, that particular portion of it. I don't know how important that is.
I don't know how I think
It's right here.
but it's listed the same way that it was before.
Yeah, but I don't think it's correct. It should
Okay.
just be that. It's up there.
I think what
correctly.
it's saying is it is the JPA Water Advisory Committee. So it's the advisory committee to the JPA.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's why it's
Gotcha.
written differently there. I think that's what, I see that's confusing.
Yeah, it's just kind of a little,
It's not
weird,
a,
but I
it's
get
not
it.
a JPA board member position. It's a water advisory.
right.
committee.
That's why I just want to make sure it was clear.
Do we have to vote on the slate of the JPAs?
Yes.
Oh.
I
Yeah.
believe we do.
Yes. Okay, we have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the slate of the joint powers authorities.
I'll
Can
second
we
it.
do it all in one?
And I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. We have any public comment on this item? Okay, do we have a poll of the board on this?
Director Cicada,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes,
President Thomas.
Yes,
good job, President Thomas.
good job. Okay, 4D, we have an, well, anyway, before I go on to 4D, thank you for not jumping up and protesting the assignments. So,
We do have a
Did you
public
expect
comment as
them?
well,
yeah,
Russ.
Yeah.
We do have a public comment as well.
Where?
from MR. Who is MR?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, Michael Roger.
There he is.
Okay. Hello, Michael.
Good afternoon. Hey, can you publish a kind of an org chart of these committees and these committee assignments for the public, please? So we. you
On
know,
the
have-
second page of our agenda, every agenda.
Is it,
They're in every single agenda.
Like that.
Yeah, they're also on the website.
okay, all the, including the
been-
committee members that you've assigned
Yeah.
today? Are published there?
They will be on the next time well, it'll be on the website probably by the end of the day, maybe. It depends on what you're doing.
It'll be in the
But-
agenda for the next board meeting.
Yeah. But
Okay,
Michael,
thank you.
I want to make it clear that this particular, I don't know, you call it an organization chart, but these assignments have been in every agenda for every meeting as long as I can
Yeah.
remember. So
Part of
this
Okay.
isn't something that we anticipated the question. It's long.
No, I'm
Practice.
I'm just not, being new to the area, I'm not familiar with all the JPAs and the organizations, and so I've got some
Okay.
homework to do in that regard. So as
Okay,
long as it's
very-
published on the website, that's great. Thank you.
All right, thanks for the question. All right, moving on, we have an update on the hydrological conditions.
Wait, let's see. It's in 4C.
You're missing
What?
Scott stuff.
Oh, the president's, JPIA presidents. Well, Scott, I apologize. I was gonna skip right over you. We're doing 4C right now. Go ahead.
I'm here on behalf of Aqua JPIA as a member of the executive committee. I'd like to present to Calaveras County Water District, the President's Special Recognition Award, which is a low loss ratio. Most insurance companies don't give out these special awards to members, but the JPIA does. Calaveras County Water District has achieved this award. This is for 3 straight years for low, for a a low loss ratio in both liability and workers' compensation. Congratulations.
While you're standing near the microphone and representing JPIA, you might want to explain to people like Francisco or Michael or other folks who might not understand the relationship, why we have our insurance with JPIA.
The Aqua JPIA is for all members, all Aqua members is available to buy your insurance through JPIA. JPIA's Joint Powers Insurance Authority provides workers' comp coverage, liability coverage, property coverage, and health benefits coverage to any Aqua member. The premiums are greatly reduced, and actually currently we're working on a value statement, and we will be doing that by the end, have that our value statement, new value statements for the JPIA. And one of the value statements that I came up with is that this insurance company does not cancel you if you're in the foothills and you're in a fire area. Their premiums might get raised a little bit. They may not come, we may not come walking in the door with big checks anymore because of wildfire risk and wildfires throughout. It's been a bad loss experience in several areas. Francisco wasn't that interested. So anyway, that's what the JPIA is. It does work as a co-op in years when claims are low in workers' comp, liability, and property. And I think we're going to be getting back to that, possibly getting back to that in the future of providing rebate checks. It kind of works like a co-op. You're never going to find Allstate or State Farm returning premiums at the end of the year because you didn't have any claims, but the JPIA does exactly that.
Thank you
That's
for
been
that.
nice in the past, for sure.
Yeah, could I just make a quick comment here? I just want to acknowledge everybody, really. This is a big deal. It's really beneficial for the district, and it's because of, this is a team effort, right? Our newest employee all the way up to the board. It takes everybody, pulling in the same direction and being mindful of risk in order for us to qualify for these awards. So it's largely due to staff, being aware, training, safety standards, adhering to those things, caring about those things, caring about one another, making sure we're taking care of everybody, and all the way up, to legal counsel and board monitoring policies and risk. It's really an organization-wide recognition, and it's really meaningful. So it's I hope we can keep them coming and see those big checks again someday.
Scott, are these for the workman's comp? Are these certificates based on like no workman's comp injuries?
It's
Or a certain amount?
low loss ratio, so it's less than 20% loss ratio. It's premium or loss over premiums is a low loss ratio. So you can have a claim, some claims during the calendar. It is for a 3-year period as well. So it's not just an isolated good year. It's for a 3-year period on both of them. And it is for workers' comp, and that is good safety rules. I mean, good safety practices throughout. It's liability coverage. That's on all of our cars that are on the road. There's a huge opportunity for accidents and collisions, and everything we work with and we work on. I mean, there's slippery slopes for every worker we got here. There's hanging cords, any kind of problems that could occur, but thank goodness don't. And congratulations to all the staff and for keeping, we don't have water lines exploding, hurting other people's property. As that's where our liability coverage comes in. Automobile accidents, people tripping and falling on our properties, things exploding and causing damage to other people's properties. We're doing good in all of those areas. And it is a company-wide, district-wide effort that keeps these President's Awards coming. They're hanging on the back wall from previous years. This isn't an isolated award, and hopefully we'll continue to get them.
Do you have an amount of how many workman's comp claims we have annually?
I could get that for you.
And you can give it to me offline. I mean, it's obviously good, and
Yeah.
not bad, which is
Absolutely.
awesome, you guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a comment. At one point, Michael, didn't we have a recognition party, coffee and donuts for our field forces or whoever contributed to this?
Yeah, we have done that in the past, and I think it is really, indicative of a culture of safety and training and mindfulness. So we'll make sure that this gets passed down to staff as well.
All right, thank you. Yeah.
Anonymous
need-
member of the
yeah.
public.
Mhm.
Scott, I apologize for almost leaving you in the lurch there, but I want you to know how proud I am of the work that you do for the district and on your involvement in JPIA.
Thank you.
Good job. Okay, now can we do the hydrological conditions report? Kelly, do you have something for us?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So this is really exciting. Actually, the first time I ever presented to you all was a year ago on January 11th. Today's the 10th. So when I was looking back, I thought that was pretty interesting. And here I am a year later presenting on some of the same topics, but we're in a completely different situation as we were. I look back at that presentation and it was interesting to see how far we've come in a year. And
So you had to create new slides and everything, huh?
I did. So yeah, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about 2024, but mainly I just put a bunch of slides in here to kind of show the comparison between the years. And just want to go over really quick. I'm sure you guys know, but the water year is basically October 1st through September 30th. And again, as you guys know too, Calaveras County has 3 different watersheds that we operate within: the McCollum, the Calaveras, the Stanislaus, and of course our groundwater to the west there. And then again, any chance I get to show this map, I love showing this map because I'm always interested in this. Always just fascinates me. I mean, again, back to the last map. Of course, we have these larger watersheds that we operate in, but I like to see. I broke it down further into the watersheds that truly. This is like the sub watershed in a sense that feeds truly our water districts and our different zones. So again, any chance I get to show this map, I'm going to show it because I think it's pretty fascinating, the footprint that we operate in. So the beginning of last water year, that's where we were. A year ago today, on January 10th, that was our drought map. And here we are at the beginning of this water year. And as of today, again, huge difference in just a year. I was looking back at all the atmospheric rivers. I think over the year we've reported on atmospheric rivers. We reported on, there was 17, there was 20. I found the latest one was 31, so I'm gonna stick with that. But I think there was different degrees of atmospheric rivers, but we can all agree that last year was probably the year of the atmospheric river, which helped us get out of these conditions quite rapidly.
Last year considered like that 100-year event type thing? Was it, how we use that, you have to plan for every 100-year event type status? Was that considered
Yeah,
like
that's more of a
100-year?
per event analysis, like what the magnitude of the flood for that particular day or that particular storm is, not necessarily the year.
Oh, right.
accumulated.
Do they have a measurement like that? Like they expect that much water every so often?
Yeah, I mean, we have historical averages and then the highs and the lows, and, California almost never falls on the average. It's usually not enough or too much.
And,
but yeah, we have historical trends.
and you said the last time that you noticed either a drought or the large amount of water was in 31? Did you-
31?
There was 31 events, 31.
Oh, sorry.
No, yeah,
Sorry, 31 events. Gotcha. Okay.
yeah, it's all over the place. I don't know if we've ever really decided how many atmospheric rivers there really was. I mean, because there was some that were severe, some that were less severe, and so as I was
It's only a 2-year-old term, so it can't be that.
Right.
yeah.
And that's probably state, right? Some of them didn't hit, some of them were further south or
Right,
north of that.
Right. And there are some really good websites out there that they're starting to track these atmospheric rivers a lot better. And there's some really interesting information out there. So this is a lot of the data that I use is through CDEC, the California Data Exchange Center. And the kind of hard to see, I apologize, but I like to use this. It's this index, this 5-station index for the San Joaquin area. And if you kind of see in the top corner there, those are the 5 stations that this is taking this information from. So it's not totally specific to Calaveras, but kind of our region. And as you can see right now, in that area, we're at 5.9 inches of rain so far. Last year at this time, we were at 23.4 and at 163% of normal. So right now, and for that region, we're sitting at about 40% of normal. And this is also, I was trying to get the latest numbers for today, but I didn't get them in time. So these are from last night, about almost 7 o'clock. So here's our rain totals, what we're looking at for the season as compared to last year. Completely different story. So I think that's quite a difference. Currently, these are all fresh reservoir levels for our area, for Calaveras specifically, except for, of course, Spicers and Alpine and whatnot up there. But still, these are our reservoirs and where we're sitting at as of today. We're starting off this water year in a much better position than we were last year. And I have some slides here in a minute to kind of show those comparisons of where we started last year as compared to where we started this year. So these are current right now. So this is at the beginning of the water year. This is where we started last year.
To that slide.
Absolutely.
So it's 83% of capacity in New Maloney's.
Yes, so the capacity is within the bar chart. That is the total capacity, and the percentage above is of normal. So right now, Maloney's is at 141% of normal for today, for this date.
Right. I always want that noted because I mean, when you put the 53% up at Hogan, it's 53% of capacity, which if it's a capacity, it's bad news for it.
Right. And I'm glad you said that because looking into last year's presentation, I didn't do that. I remember you said that, so I made sure this time I had it.
I appreciate it.
And it's also interesting once you get to the snowpack, they do the same thing where it's percentage like of that day, and also they give you for the April 1st percentage. A lot is based on that, based on what we'd have at April 1st. So once I get to the snow, you'll see 2 percentages as well. One will be
It's always confusing on the news when they talk about percentages snowpack, and then they don't say year to date.
It does get confusing,
Yeah,
yes.
it's
And that's why I'm trying to emphasize too the water year. So it does get a little bit complicated because, of course, we've got water year, we've got calendar year, we've got fiscal year, we've got all sorts of different years. So where we started out last year on all the reservoirs, this isn't totally to scale because Maloney's is huge, and I couldn't do a proper chart, but this is just to show kind of the differences. And in the next slide, it's going to be interesting to see where Spicer and Hogan are. But this is basically on the left is where we started last year at the beginning of the water year, and here's where we're starting this water year. So
This doesn't have the numbers, but if I remember correctly, New Maloney's was like 35% at the beginning of last year, right? Or somewhere in that neighborhood. And it's now 83.
Yeah, I don't recall the percentage of last year. I can easily look at that.
Prior to this, maybe that was October, like prior to the start of the water year. Anyway, it gained a lot of water over the last year.
It did. And I'm sorry, I apologize for not putting the exact numbers. I was just really trying to illustrate the huge difference.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah. And so Spicer, this one I think is really fascinating. As you see, the red line is last year's water year. And this is every year since 2017. The kind of yellow gold was 2017 and the red is 2023. All the other ones I grayed out because I was really wanted to focus on this year. And what I find is remarkable is Spicer was not only at its lowest, but at its highest last water year. And again, I imagine that's because in March they were releasing to make room, but I think it's pretty remarkable to have the lowest and highest all in one year. So when I was putting these together, I found that fascinating. And New Hogan was very similar. Not quite the highest, but close to it. But we went into starting last year, pretty low.
Yeah.
So the snowpack, this is a statewide, this is just percentage of normal. This isn't the April 1st date. Where we're sitting as of today is at 35%. January 10th last year, we were at 223%.
How often do they do the snow surveys or the water surveys?
Well, the official ones I think are once a month or every 2 months, but on CDEC, they have a daily. This is updated every single day. But the official one that the Department of Water Resource does is,
I think the snowpack survey is monthly. The bulletin 120 is updated weekly. So the runoff projections are updated weekly.
but if you go to this particular one, they update this every day, this particular one. And so this is breaking it down more for the regions, the Northern Sierra, the Central and the Southern. That's where we're sitting at today, 38%, 37, 28. And that's where we're going to get that April 1st average and the percentage, the normal percent normal to date. And this is where we were at last year. I like seeing numbers like this. It's pretty interesting. It's almost hard to believe that was only a year ago, and here we are. And then for the Ebbets Pass specific, I utilized the Pacific Valley weather station, and this was basically, again, I apologize, I don't have the numbers. I was just trying to really illustrate the peaks and valleys, since this goes back to 1980. And as you can see, 1983 and 2023 were the two major years. I think it was 177 inches at that location last year, whereas in 1983, I think it was 173 inches. So pretty phenomenal. And then it's hard to even think back in 2015 it was that low. I mean, I remember it was certainly a drought year, but I didn't realize it was quite that low. So it's really interesting to look back and see the history of it. And we kind of have short memories almost. Even just doing this, just looking back the year, it was really interesting to compare. And so, thank you. And this is my way of hoping it snows. This is my version of a snow dance. So
I think
I say bring it on. But personally, I love the snow and I think we could use it, but we are in a much better situation than we were last year. Of course, we can always use more snow, but I don't think we're in a dire situation like we were this time last year. I mean, last year I was still reporting to you guys on drought, and we were still in the stage 2, and so.
I actually flew up with a PG&E crew one time to do a snow survey. Flew up in their helicopter, and it's pretty interesting. I thought it was going to be like a fun trip. Then I realized why they asked for volunteers. As I mean, you basically got to get out there. They land on the snow, and it just snowed a bunch. They actually have plywood on the bottom of the helicopter, so when they land, they can pat the snow.
Yeah.
I guess they learned the hard way that you can't land on snow. They had to dig one side out. But then you just go out. They have different tracks that they go out, and you have to mark off like 50 meters, maybe 8 or 10 times on one meadow, and take the snow survey and weigh it and everything. It's a pretty interesting deal. It was actually a really cool experience. But now I don't think they do it like that. They do it all aerial. Satellite.
Yeah, LiDAR. Yeah. You guys have any questions?
Good job.
Yeah.
A lot of good information. Thank you.
Yeah, like I said, I just
Thank you,
really
Kelly.
mainly wanted to just kind of illustrate the differences, so hopefully I'm not back here reporting on drought situation again anytime soon, but
Back on Monday, you'll have a completely different report.
yeah. Yeah, that's how it was last year. And also, you guys, during the External Relations Committee, I presented a newsletter, and in there is there's also a link to some hydrological conditions that I try to keep up on. Last year we were doing it, and last year it was hard to keep up because, every time I update it, we'd have another storm coming in. So I try to update that about weekly. So if you guys are interested, I can send you a link to that and keep up on any of this stuff.
Nice.
All right.
I'd like to ask anybody from the public has any questions for Kelly. Good report, Kelly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Must have been thorough.
It was very thorough. that one looked like a cross-cut saw blade, and up and down and up and down. Okay, going on to item 6, reports. Report on the December 2023 Operations Department. Hello, Damon.
Good afternoon, directors. Hey, so even though the holidays were upon us in December, that doesn't mean we're not out there in the field doing safe, efficient, and effective work. So just going to give you I'll give you a visual rundown of some of the work that we
With a
did last
camera
month.
too.
What's that?
With a camera on top of it.
Yes, exactly right. So, we don't often highlight the elimination of infrastructure or the abandonment of infrastructure. This is the case down in Rancho Calaveras on McAtee. A valve that's no longer necessary. It was actually leaking at the water main. So you can see there's quite a bit of deflection there also on the T coming off at that blue repair or that blue coupler. You can see it's leaking actually at the valve itself. And there is the tap saddle with the valve on it. So the picture in the image on the left, you can see the water leaking, the pickup tube for the Vector truck. Image on the right is the top of the tap saddle, and that's quite a bit of corrosion. And the brass on the valve, you can see it's quite old. It's been in there for a while. So it's always great to be able to eliminate aged and obsolete infrastructure, get it out of there, and save water. So that's what the guys did. Do a great job. You can see a little bit of the tuberculation inside the valve in the image on the left, and then the after in the image on the right. And these coupling connectors have just they're space age nowadays. So a lot of that's like 2-bolt coupling on the water main, and those they're called Hymax couplings, and they're just super effective, and they're really easy to install. So not only are we improving our efforts constantly, but sometimes the tools that we have are also improving. So just an interesting, you can see there's another line in there. I'm not sure, I didn't get feedback from the field guys on what that other line is in this image on the left, but you can see a repair on Wong Court, some of that infamous blue bell that we have out in the system. You look at it and it breaks. You smack it and it spirals, and you got to pull out 20 feet of it. So it's very delicate stuff. Moving on to, so over time, one of the objectives that we have out in the field currently is to really reestablish some of the information and the understanding of our infrastructure that we might have lost over the years. So over time, you can lose, location of valves or how the system is functioning accurately. And so here's a case of that. So we're exposing some valves that address our B zone at our A tank in Rancho Calaveras. And you can see, staff in the image on the left, they're scraping the top, they're using a metal detector, and then they're finding, of the top of a valve, what we call a G5, so that it's basically a 6-inch section of pipe with a metal lid on top. So that's what they found there on the left, and the image on the right, hiding underneath the question mark is, are the valve, the tops of the valves there. Yeah. And then
being that these valves can be covered up, they haven't been exercised in one way.
Correct. Yeah.
They IBM valves.
I would guess that they're resiliency, and I would guess, I would say that once we find them, then we're going to add them to the regimen. Valve exercising, Ralph, is always one of those challenges that our distribution crews really kind of, work to comply with the requirement throughout the season. Generally, it happens when we're doing a repair or a shutdown or isolating parts of the system. We're going to exercise a bunch of valves at that point in time. In this case, you can see that we poured some concrete around those to make sure that they don't disappear again in the future. And then kind of anecdotally to your question about valves and effective operation and valve seating, we were talking about the seat of a fire hydrant earlier in the week out in the field in Rancho. I want to say that was on the end of Cassidy. That the seat of that fire hydrant at install, we're thinking, or due to Some flushing of the system in the past had all these small pebbles, all these small rocks that were just shoved into the resiliency of that fire hydrant. And so as you shut that thing down, if you have a little water creeping by, you're gonna shut it down even more. Yeah. So to your point, valve operation is a critical component of distribution system operation, and our guys do it. We actually noted in the ops report. You can see that under the distribution crews, valves exercise, and they'll note that in there. Ebbets Pass water system service line repair. You can see it's kind of out in the forest a little bit in between homes. We've got a meter set out there, and the guys are exposing there with the Vector truck. And here we are at the meter box, and then the T in the image on the right. You can see that service line is just plumb snapped off that T, so it's just not even connected. And so, day-to-day work efforts for the field crews. You can see the meter box in the image here on the left. We're going to tee off to another meter box. And the image on the right's really telling. So, hygienic, safe operations of the distribution system. So as the guys complete the repair, they make sure that water meter is not reset, and they're going to go ahead and flush that. And you can see operating that curb stop and flushing the water out of the system before you put the meter back.
Hi, Damon.
Hi.
So on these repairs, are they like emergency repairs where a customer called and said, oh, I've got a water leak, or are they just things that have to be done? Because I'm looking like in your written report too, and I show like 14 service line repairs. So are those, like I said, it's a customer calling, or we just know they're there, or how does that?
It can be all of the above. So it can, if it's going to directly negatively impact a customer or potentially damage property, it's an emergency. Or if they're out of water, or if it's going to reduce pressure throughout the distribution system to the point of it being unsafe, it's an emergency. If it's leaking slowly, it's out on a cross-country line, and we have 10 leaks ahead of it, it's going to get put on what we call the board, and we're going to get to it when we can get to it. So we have a little bit of all of the above happening.
So pretty much either a customer will call in and say they notice a puddle, or staff out in the field sees it. You do a quick little investigation and decide emergency or not, kind of a thing.
That's right. And
Yeah.
so call kind of just a scenario. Customer notices the leak or has an issue at their home. They call customer service. Customer service will issue what's called a service request to whatever field crew that is. Let's go investigate this. The field crew will complete and close that. Customer service will get an email back, essentially a notice back that says the work has been done. And then contained within that work order or service request report is a synopsis of what happened. Now, go ahead. You're going to say.
I was going to say, when you do your scheduling of work for the week, or how often do you do it? How many of these do you anticipate? Like, do you have like an emergency, like, our average is 5 a week or whatever that, do you have anything like that? Is there?
I could say, well, just kind of thinking about the operations report, I think we generally average around 25 to 35 in Rancho Calaveras.
A day or a month?
A month.
Okay.
And so then in Ebbets Pass, you're at about 10 to 15 a month, and in Copper, about the same. So you're about 3 a day, right around there on a bad month.
Service lines, which is the lateral to the customer's house, right?
To their meter set, right? To their meter box, right?
Okay. And then the main line work that I see, we only had 2 issues. Those were just scheduled, or were those emergencies?
Generally, a main is going to be an emergency. So, I mean, there are times where you have a water main where you understand you might have a slight leak, and you know about it, but you're trying to get a crew together to go ahead and get it fixed and schedule it. And, we might have to do a nighttime shutdown. We might have to take customers out of water. So we're going to try to schedule all that. But generally, and knock on wood, but if we have a water main break, it's a direct emergency. And so we're going to potentially.
What's our average of those? Any idea?
Water main breaks. So thanks to the engineering department of folks like Charles, their frequency is reducing. So
nice.
I think when Kelly was on the pass with Reach 3A, Reach 1, and Techite, they were every other month, a significant water main break. Nowadays, we're looking at, I would say, 1 a quarter. That's going to actually, make it to the news, so to speak.
Good progress.
Right. Yeah. Oh, it's definite progress. Definite progress. Yeah, it has been a very dramatic improvement.
The photo on the left has me puzzled. That's obviously coming out of the valve box. but the line splits at that brass T. That's that's going to the customer's home, isn't it?
So I should have oriented this perhaps a little bit differently. So if you can imagine another meter box on the other side where the other picture would be, where you can see somebody's hands purging water, imagine there being a meter box there. So from the top of your screen down is the service line coming from the water main,
Yeah.
and it's going to serve 2 meter boxes, and you're just looking at one.
Which are usually side by side.
Right, that's right. They're usually right next to each other, and so you're gonna have that T really close to both of those meter boxes. And in this image, it's kind of set off and away a little bit.
The photographer just wasn't tall enough.
Yeah, that's right.
So the lines coming into that T are incoming water from the main.
Correct. And if you look in the image on the right at the kind of above the word Apache, you can see that T
Yeah.
going to the meter box, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So you basically have 2 of those meter sets right there.
Well, it looks like to me that your the gradual growth of these thousands of roots in the ground is your worst enemy, isn't it?
Roots are a continual problem, not only on the water side, but also on the wastewater side. Yep, absolutely. Yep. So moving on to hydrant replacement, Tree Lane in West Point, you can just hats off to the fabulous work our construction crew and distribution crew guys do. I mean, that's really clean work. You know,
It is pretty.
yeah, pretty sanitary pad for that hydrant. Looks really good. And you guys know a garbage bag on a fire hydrant is not a good thing. You know, that means do not use, you know, we don't like those. So we want to get rid of those.
And aside from the hydrants, I see in Copper, the local fire district, doesn't you allow, are the other district fire districts do?
That's correct. So we have an agreement with the different fire protection districts where they'll do what's called the squirt test or a bump test. They'll record the pressure. They'll clean if there's any bushes or shrubs around the hydrants. Yeah, and then we receive a report from them. And then if they have, you know, say there's, 400 hydrants in Ebbets Pass and there's 5 that are out of service, we'll receive that report and then we'll go ahead and issue work orders and go repair those or replace those hydrants that are out of service.
You get the flow?
So we can, however, it's always kind of an interesting consideration when you think about flow testing a fire hydrant, just because of the impact it has on the broader distribution system. So we could have a really long conversation about flow testing, but yes, we can. And oftentimes when we do that, Ralph, we do use a pitot gauge, and we can also, and then we can pull pressure off different hydrants and then kind of get an estimation of what the flow would be at those hydrants based on the pressure drop. Yep.
That policy of having the local fire agencies do the testing, is that a long-standing arrangement, or is it?
I believe it is longstanding. It was updated in 2021, I want to say.
Okay.
There was a price change in their work effort, per hydrant work effort, and there was also kind of a reinvigoration, if you will. A lot of the departments didn't have enough. Generally, they'll use like a newer staff member or less experienced staff member to do the work, kind of familiarizes them with the distribution system. And when we were reaching out to the fire departments about this work effort, some of them just simply didn't have the staff, and now they do. So it's kind of it's picked back up again. But it was my understanding that it had been around for many years.
Yeah, well, I'm familiar with it for a long
Yeah.
time in Rancho, but are we keeping up with the training of these departments? Because I know there is high turnover on those departments, and I just want to make sure that we're continuing our training effort with those departments.
Yes, we do. We have a really good relationship with the different fire protection districts, and we do periodically conduct training for them, for their less experienced staff, on how to operate our system. That's another great, continuing with the theme, that's another great insurance policy, that we don't end up with a lot of water main breaks. If you have a well-educated fire department, it helps reduce the amount of line breaks that you're going to have in the future.
You had a comment, Francisco?
Just a curiosity question. If you were to say college professor and assess the status of the infrastructure on a scale of A, B, C, D, E, or F, how would you grade it?
Is a passing grade
A is absolutely, you can't find any better way to get it.
in terms of fire protection
No, in terms
of
of
just
infrastructure.
system condition? I would say we're at average to above average. Yeah,
B,
I would say B, C plus B, right around there.
I mean, I think that's gonna vary widely from one piece of infrastructure to the next.
Well,
It's hard to say system wide.
Well, I'm thinking about, water mains from my perspective, like speaking about fire hydrants and water mains, because one of the considerations I would say that you can rest assured about is the volume of water you have available for fire protection. I think that's one of the really positive things that CCWD can provide in terms of infrastructure when it comes to the system in the ground. Yeah. Oh, you're talking about just the whole shooting match? Well, we're in a significant, so we have, we've talked about it. We have 41 lift stations, right? 31 of which are around a lake. And most of those are vintage 1970s. Yeah, and yeah, we're pretty much there. Yeah, so when you look at the system overall, we're at a D. We're failing. Yeah.
that's my.
Gotcha.
Well, you can't isolate that's one aspect of our infrastructure.
That's right.
You go through Rancho Calaveras, that was, the infrastructure there was constructed in the late 60s, early 70s. So distribution is completely different. You go into Gold Creek where
That's right.
it's fairly modern,
I think like what Director Davidson is saying is accurate is there's going to be this, and Michael touched on it too. It's like a overall just kind of a shades of a lot of variability in terms of overall system condition. Now, when you look at system condition relative to negative impact for failure, some of those things are going to appear much more critical than others, and so that's going to kind of shade your consideration overall.
I don't.
Rancho is the A and Copper is the B minus, and all those things are considered. And then we understand why we're going to the B minus fix versus the A fix.
We do that.
Yeah.
Development of our capital improvement program.
Yeah.
It's not.
Gotcha. Well, okay. Yeah, I understand what your request is, and I don't think it's a heavy lift for me to provide you an indication of what the challenges are, depending on the different disciplines within CCWD. I can pretty much readily show you that. From a non-ops report approach, just kind of, because, I think a lot of these images are trying to convey that, but I understand what your request is. Yeah.
Kelly recently told me that there's more than 350 miles of water distribution line within the CCWD system. How do you anticipate where your next break is going to be if you've got a line that goes from here to Bakersfield? So it's
Yeah, that's a really challenging aspect of the job.
But we do track that. We know where leaks reoccur. We track that.
Yeah, and we discuss our top 10, we have top 10 worst, we have the most notorious lines. So we have this information that
And every year when we develop our CIP every year, we bring that information, based on, as Damon mentioned, it's both, how close are we to failure and what are the consequences of failure? And so there's different metrics, different ways that we evaluate those projects, and we go through that process as we update our CIP every year on a rolling basis. So that will be coming before the engineering committee in the next few months. We usually try to get that done by March in the best case scenario, so that we've factored that into the next fiscal year's budget.
I just want to say something. I don't buy into the A, B, C, D, E, F grading of any of these facilities because, this is it's not just a mechanical aspect of our facility. There's also the operation and maintenance, that there are some things that we can do with staff that when we know we have, maybe a weak system, so it balances out. We do not have repeated failures at the
Right.
district. We do not. You know,
Yeah.
we have leaks, certainly in Rancho and other places, these older systems, but we do not have outages, failures. We don't have those. And sometimes a weak system can be managed better, and certainly we want to improve those systems, but I'm not going to go along with an A, B, C, D, E, F. It's going to be way too complex to go to every individual. There are parts of Rancho Calaveras that are 10, 15 years old. You know, so we're going to call that an A, but then the majority of the system out there is lower than that. I mean, somebody's going to really have to get into the explaining all the details that go into this grading system. What I saw here today, there's no definition of any of these outcomes, but there's a bunch of failing grades. I don't know what the definition. There's no description that go along with any of these. This
Oh, yeah, I'm not privy to that document.
That's why
We'll bring that back. Yeah. Gotcha. I mean, and you know, all of these images highlight or follow on this conversation. This is a service line through rock, you know.
Losing this.
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
That's what I'm.
Gotcha. Yeah. And we've talked about this too, in terms of, you know, just basically taking an operations report over year and then slapping it down on the table and say, you know, I think we had 441 service lateral. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So jumping back into this, I mean, you can see that we deal with all manner of challenges. This is a service line. We could not find this thing to save our lives. It water perking out the end of a cul-de-sac, and oh, lo and behold, the service line is bored through the rock in the hillside. So that's why we couldn't find the service line, because it was in the rock. So this is going to be one of those ones where you have to live to fight another day. You put the service line back through the rock, and then we talk with engineering about a way to reestablish a connection to this meter set.
Interesting.
Here's a 2-inch bluebell, the infamous bluebell again in Copper Cove on Burns Ferry, replacing, you know, this really thin, flat, fragile pipe of normally 2-inch in size. Dolores and Copper. This is in Poker Flat. So we're back to this conversation of other utilities living next door to the water utility. So you see our employee there with his hands down in between electrical conduit, working on a water line, which always gives me the warm fuzzies when we think about insurance, right? I mean, and so here's a really, this is kind of the belle of the ball here. So, you know, we've had, and Jeff and I will talk to you about this here, I'm sure in the coming months, but we've had an inordinate amount of mixers and pump failures at pump stations and lift stations this year. This is a mixer, so you're not seeing the shaft with the mixer blade on it. You're seeing basically the motor and the cage. The image on the left, you can see the electrical power line is exposed and some of the wiring. So it was damaged while it lived. This thing lives in a wastewater lift station and churns all the thick, greasy mess, the stew, that's living in the lift station, and it collects these Swiffer shards and mop head shards on it, and it wears them like a dress. So you can see that image on the right, all of that garbage hanging off of the mixer cage is just kind of a reflection, you know, that our collections crew do difficult work safely, and they do a great job. So this is pulling that mixer, because that mixer is critical to ensuring the proper function of the lift station. If you can't mix all that debris up within the stew, you can't pump the stew. So it's critical to get these out and get them replaced, and they're not cheap. It's like a $30,000 mixer. Septic tank rehab is also a critical component of what the collections crew does. We have about 700 septic tanks. So cleaning them off and then ensuring that riser over the lid is watertight. So then when we hit the wet weather, we're not just getting it in, a ton of I&I, inflow and infiltration into the septic tank. And then also eliminating roots. We were talking earlier about roots around water systems. Roots around septic tanks and roots around the sewer system are just as nasty. So we're always in there, and you can thorough seal. We don't use thorough seal, but you can coat a septic tank. A lot of times we'll coat the outside of the tank to inhibit root intrusion. So that's a critical component. That's part of our sanitary sewer management plan or program. Not giving you too much access to the secret stash of files here at the district, but this is what ladder logic for SCADA looks like for a pump station. So this is kind of troubleshooting that our electricians do. You know, they get a pump that kicks on for a second, kicks off, and the operator can't understand why. The electricians can get into the brain of the operation, and for some reason, usually it's a lightning strike or some sort of electrical glitch in the PG&E provided power. The system will change. So you'll, instead of going from an on situation. So if the tank gets to X level, turn this pump on, and then when the tank gets to Y level, turn the pump off. Sometimes that can just change. And our electricians have the ability to get in there and understand why that happened and then correct it. So that's what the ladder logic looks like for that effort. This is, so you can ask an electrician to open up a laptop and do that from an office or a laboratory in a water treatment plant. And then when they're done with that, they can go climb B tank in the Jenny Lynn system and replace transducers. And so kind of hard to see in the image on the left, but that is water. That's the open hatch on the roof of the tank with some transducers that are floating in the water. And then the image on the right is, either pulled the old ones or getting ready to drop the new ones in. And so kind of a standard job, but if you're afraid of heights, it can be tough. And our electricians are actually trained in climbing and fall protection. So they harness up and they wear gear.
Is that the tank that's up on the picture?
But even so, it can be a little, make your feet sweat a little bit.
That's a little question.
Flow meter calibrations. So then they can jump into testing and calibrating flow meters. So this is just a flow meter calibration of the signal. So what the signal is putting out, verified matching flow. So it's a 4 to 20 milliamp signal for control and flow of a flow meter. This is facilities maintenance. So we talked last month about the Huckleberry site cleanup. So that image on the left is some privacy screen on the fencing. Image on the right.
Why do we have that?
Just so folks won't see what's happening in the yard. It appears cleaner. So if we park that, or if we go put that mixer out there, somebody doesn't see it while they're driving by.
Dave? Are they done by that camp, boys camp or whatever?
They're done by CAL FIRE Vallecito Camp. That is correct. So they'll go out and they'll put the piles out, and then we'll monitor those as they burn down. Yep. And they're out at Lock and Tenna this week. And then our friend, the mixer motor again.
How often do you use them?
We try to use them as much as possible. So I would say this time of year, we're taking advantage of their skills weekly. It might be 2 days a week, but it's definitely weekly.
They have reduced those camps, though, haven't they?
They have. Yes, they have.
Do we have to pay for that?
It's $248 a day for 12 employees.
Well, guys, for how many hours?
The whole day.
8-hour days?
Yeah, you get them. Yep.
Wow, nice.
And they make quick work of stuff. They're fabulous.
Very good.
Because they want to get back from where they came from, right?
Yeah, right.
So-
I just have 3 quick questions for you, Damon.
Sorry, Director Underhill, unfortunately, you're an observer today, but we can address your questions offline. I'll follow up with you after the meeting.
I can't even ask a question, okay? All right.
How much did you say that mixer pump costs?
Close to 30 grand. Do you have like a friend that we might be able to hire, get us some neoprene suit, like 8-hour shift?
Well, in the previous pictures, it looks like that it's this big, but then there's another picture at the end where you've got a person's foot. I mean, the thing is this big, so
it can churn if you consider like what we call a fatberg is like grease and fat, and it can get really thick. And so this thing can actually break all that stuff up.
So that's like a Tesla motor or something. So
it's a really powerful high torque. Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
It's always awesome, very interesting stuff. Any other questions from the public?
And they can go through and maybe get commitments up and meet out or do things.
Nice.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
You mentioned that.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that. I think the guys would too. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
Okay, moving on to 6B, General Manager's Report.
Okay, I'll keep it pretty brief. We had really good engineering committee meeting yesterday, very thorough discussions, a lot of topics, just a couple of highlights. One that we'll see probably at the next board meeting, we'll be bringing a discussion of a grant consultant that we're recommending. We'll bring that to the full board at the next meeting. And the very good news is we have hired an engineering coordinator who will be starting in a few weeks, I think. So we're very much looking forward to that. We also had external relations committee last week. Kelly Gerkensmeyer and Kelly Richards are both doing just phenomenal presentations to that committee. A lot of information that they're sharing, and a lot of, I think we're leaps and bounds ahead of where we were a year ago when it comes to what we're sharing and how frequently we're sharing publicly, and the effectiveness of that communication. And that's largely due to those two. And so I am just excited about the direction external relations is going in. I just want to acknowledge the water. We have always, multiple water reporting requirements over the course of the year, including the newest one this year for the first time, our water use efficiency compliance reporting. But water audits and validating the water audits is a work effort that takes place towards the end of the calendar year. We currently have 2 water resources positions, and both are vacant. And so is Jesse Hampton and Kelly Gerkensmeyer and others in ops and engineering and customer service. But Kelly and Jesse both really led the charge on that, put a lot of extra work in to make sure we got our reports in on time. We're sort of managing water resources by committee. And it's kind of all departments on deck. And so we meet on a regular basis to make sure we're not missing anything, but hoping to fill those positions sooner rather than later. The customer portal will be going live this month. So I'm very excited about that. It's just another highlight to tease the January 24th board meeting. Should be.
Do you have a date yet?
I think it will be January 24th.
Okay.
So we'll be rolling it out, and we're working on some outreach materials for the public on that. And then other than that, really just a lot of recruiting and trying to get reach out different places and expand our reach and all of our recruiting efforts. Really need to get our positions filled as soon as we can. So that's a high priority. It's already been mentioned today, but we have mid-year budget review coming up. We can go right into budget development, capital improvement plan update. A lot of this is the ramping up on the finance and accounting side of things. So it's that season already. It's like we just did that.
Does your hiring recruiting policy need to be updated? I don't know.
It does, actually. I'm glad you mentioned that. We will be bringing that, and that's been an ongoing process. As the board knows, we've updated some policies, and then we will take on another chunk of policies and work with the bargaining units on that and bring them to the full board to update those policies. And so the employee handbook is one of the
Is that considered a recruiting policy or a hiring policy, or is it?
We have policies that apply to those processes as well as in the contracts themselves. So a lot of that just needs a refresh. I don't think we're talking about major
Do you,
changes or updates, but some things that could be updated and cleaned up.
do you currently use like monster.com, one of those online type where they submit? I used to use that and it was so convenient because they come through and you can pre-screen them, and if it's,
Yeah, I don't
just,
know if
and it's either free or inexpensive.
I don't know if we're using Monster. I know that we tried
Something
to,
like
and Stacy and Kate could speak to this more, but we try to use multiple different sources, and at least one of those sources will get us into the aggregators, like Indeed and the other aggregators. And so we try to make sure we're casting a wide net where we hit the industry associations, and then but also the other sources that get us into those aggregators.
Well, like the ones like Monster and Indeed, at least those are open to the wider public.
Right.
Not all engineers are going to be with.
Oh, no, yeah,
ongoing
absolutely. We try to go what broader than that. Yeah. That's all I've got.
Okay, let's go to board member reports, information, future agenda items, starting with you, Scott.
This coming Friday, I have a meeting in Mountain Counties, is meeting with CARB, the California Air Resources Control Board, and several members of CARB will be at that. I mean, it's going to be a Zoom meeting. And then next week, the Aqua JPIA has a couple meetings on Wednesday, the 17th. It's the Risk Management Committee. And then on 8 o'clock on Thursday morning in Roseville, we have our regular executive committee JPIA meeting. That's all I got coming up.
Tell me more about this Mountain Counties and CARB meeting.
It's a meeting that our executive director, Justin Caparuso, organized with CARB to discuss the clean fleet regulations as they move forward. And several members of CARB will be on the call.
We have staff going to that meeting, or is it just for board members of Mount Counties?
I don't see any of our staff.
You guys are going?
Invited.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be, sorry. It'd be kind of cool to have that reported out at our next meeting, at the meeting after that to see maybe in your report.
Okay, and that concluded your report? Is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Director Davidson?
I have nothing to report.
Okay, Director Cicada, your turn.
For the IRWM, I'm no longer going to be the representative. And with Bertha, I was going to see, they canceled the JPA meeting for January, but they will have a watershed advisory committee meeting. So I was going to see if maybe her and I want to go to that together so I can introduce her, kind of hand her off to everybody there, because I've been doing that since 2004. So that's that, Bertha. We could talk offline. And now for the future agenda items, I would really encourage that we agendize the report card dashboard, whatever we're going to call it, sooner than later. And I think if we did it the next meeting, it's really kind of a, do we want to listen to the ratepayers, the public, and go forward with something like this or no? And then if we decide, yes, we do, they can quickly decide, do we want to do it via committee or some kind of a workshop to go over what metrics to use? I think we could do this at a reasonable time frame and not make it such a large discussion. First, yes or no? And then if it's yes, let's quickly decide committee or workshop. So I can't stress how important I think it is. We've been hearing about it for a long time, and it just seems like we're not making any progress. And I think it's really important that we have to try, even if we start, one little bite at a time, but we have to start making progress. So thank you, Board, for making that happen.
Okay, well, it's been suggested that we do that at the January 24th meeting.
Yes.
I have a sense that agenda is going to be so impacted that it would be difficult to carve out another half hour, 45 minutes for discussion of that item. I don't see it.
what's in that meeting right now. And I'm saying this because, you know, I call into the meeting, the committees that I'm part of. And I've heard Francisco be, yeah, we'll get back to you. And even at the last meeting, asking for the standing item and, you know, for this to be a standing item. And it's like, we'll discuss it and nothing happens. And I think this should be our board's highest priority because the public is asking for this. And if we want to be good transparency, this is how we get started. So
Yeah,
is there something else on there that we
we
can take off?
we have a lot of high priority items on there. We have, it's not that nothing is happening. We have a meeting set up with Francisco and his whole group. It will be after that next board meeting. So the next meeting between staff and that group is January 26th. You know, we'll do it however the board wants to do it. If we want to agendize it on the 24th, but it will be a long agenda at that.
But with you meeting with staff, with just staff and them, I think it needs to be board direction. You need to get this going. That
Just gonna make one suggestion. Has this been before the finance committee? Because I mean, I'm certainly going to know what the price tag is gonna be and what part of the budget it's gonna come out of.
for making this dashboard.
Well,
let's
it's
agendize it
bigger
and
than
talk
just
about
making
it.
a.
We don't know.
Right,
I
but
don't
that's
think
my
it's gonna
point
be
is, I mean,
anything.
why not add it to the finance committee as well and try to at least get a dollar amount so we can figure out what we're gonna not do to do this.
Okay, so at the next meeting, we agendized, we want to do a dashboard, yes, no, and then you can decide, kick it to the finance committee. But right now it's in the external affairs. And I know we've had a lot going on, but this to me is so important. They are asking us to do something and giving us all the tools. Why can't we say thank you and let's get going? And, you know, all these metrics, maybe we decide at the committee or workshop, we pick 4 for right now. I don't know what it is.
We're
Start
up again.
somewhere.
So
Okay,
I'll
please
work with the
put it on the
president and
agenda.
we'll develop the agenda for the next.
Thank you.
Okay. My turn. I had a kind of an interesting interaction with some folks that also were saying that we should be more transparent. Last Sunday, I had an opportunity to talk to some people that were collecting signatures and they wanted me to sign the petition. They obviously didn't know who I was,
Do
but
recall.
yeah. So I said, well, I should, yeah. But so I said, you know, explain to me what you know, what is your objective here? And they were presenting all kinds of stuff that were not true. They absolutely were not true. And so I suggested that, hey, I know that we have staff, or I will personally come with information that will show you that you're advertising, the facts that you're advertising here are not accurate. And the response was, you can show me anything you want, but I won't change my mind. So I don't know. I'm acknowledging that we probably should have done better communications in the past, and we can improve upon it. But holy cow! I mean, if somebody just absolutely does not want to listen, they've already made up their minds. They don't bother me with facts. Is what I heard. So I don't know. That's my soapbox for today, and I apologize for you know, taking the time to do that, but I had to get it off my chest. But go ahead. Okay. That's noted. Thank you. Okay, so that concludes our board request for agenda items, and you got the response from the general manager that we'll work with an agenda item for the next meeting. Okay, speaking of the next board meetings, the next one will be on the 24th, followed by one on Wednesday, February 14th. Now, we're going into closed sessions. Two items, Government Code 54957.6, Agency Negotiators. And then we have also a 9B, Conference with Legal Counsel, Anticipated Litigation, Significant Exposure to Litigation pursuant to Subdivision D2 of Government Code, Section 54956.9, two potential cases. Okay, we're going to go into closed session now, and we'll come back with any reportable action. Public comment on these items or questions, comments? Yeah, let's reconvene for the closed session.